Team Family Squadron.
Oh, feels good.
We are back. We are back in a fireside format. No, we're back for another season. We're back for another season. We had our best year yet. I can't wait to get into the details. But today, we have Golden Door winner, org head partner here at the Grit, Skyler Griffin, $45 million downline this year. We're here with an industry legend. We can't wait to get into it. But as for right now, welcome out to yet another episode of The Landing Pad.
We're here.
We're here.
We made it. It's October, mid-October. We're here. We got the job done. It's a nice little round robin fireside vibe. A little classier than Bishop Massey.
It's elevated.
It's elevated. Life's elevated. Worry
it,
less,
dude.
live more. You guys, we made it back, and this is the newest episode. I think it's been a minute since we dropped an episode. Long time. All summer, so it feels a little. We're not at the rookery. We're not on a table to hide behind. So you guys, welcome back. We like Easton already said, we're stoked to have Skyler here. So Skyler Griffin from Arizona, born and raised Arizona.
Yeah, born and raised in Tempe, Arizona.
Yep.
Came up to school at the University of Utah, class of 2019.
Yep.
Kinesiology.
Graduated.
Bachelor of Science. Yep, graduated. Here I am, stayed in Utah.
Love that. So Skyler, right? You've been in this industry now. What year was this last year for you?
Let's see. My first summer selling was 2016. So this was like year 8, year 9.
Year 8, finishing 9. So you guys, Skyler, you guys have probably already heard on the podcast. He's been on multiple times. The guy is one of the smartest, if not the smartest guys at the Grit. And if you haven't listened to his previous podcast, I know when you were on with Parker, there were some nuggets that I still drop in a bunch of my meetings with, that you dropped with Parker. But we just thought it was like, hey, new season, let's get Skyler Griffin on to talk about all the new things that we have going forward, because you guys have probably seen, if you're at the Grit, you already know. If you're not at the Grit, this year, 2024, these last 6 months, it's not the same company. Oh my gosh. Like we look at where we've been, we look at where we were even at in 2023, and the new initiatives, and we'll get into all of that. We're just a different company. So obviously we'll have Skyler talk about lessons learned and everything, but we're also just going to talk about like what we're excited about at the Grit in 2025, like rolling into a new year with new partners, with a new company, with new systems, processes. There's so much new to unpack. But before we get into the new, Skyler, we wanted to just dive into your 2024 season. So Easton already said it. This last year, you and Parker in your guys' organization produced right around $45 million. Last year, what'd you guys do?
It was like $34 million.
So raising it by about $10 million plus to your org. And obviously, dude, like when you've been when you've been in this industry for 8+ years, you start to think that you've like learned it all, and then you're like, oh, it's just another summer. I'll be fine. It's just another summer. Dude, we would love to just dive in and maybe a couple of your takeaway. What are the good things, bad takeaways? Because every summer's hard. We've all every summer you have one breakdown where you're sitting on the curb crying. We've all been there. You've been there. Mm-hmm. So
Memorial Day, rookie year, Kennett Square.
So we just love that. Skyler, what have been a couple of the takeaways from 2024 that like lessons learned from 2024? Then we'll get into like what excited you from 2024 leading into 2025.
I think before you answer,
please.
Like, I think context really helps here. Like to set the stage, the type of year we had last year, the momentum, kind of some of the early conversations that we started to have around systems and leadership and not going insane and really setting ourselves up to scale and take on tons of bodies moving forward. I think just context will help people understand kind of through your lessons where some of those lessons might have fit in the landscape of the Grit and building your organization in 2024.
Yeah, 2024, I think I've learned a ton, and I would say like I learn a ton every year, right? Like you said, Garth, right? There's just always more to learn, and you just never hit that spot where you like know it all, right? And I just turned 30 last week or two ago, and so that's been really interesting too, thinking back to from where I was, when I was 20 to where I am now, 10 years, and it's actually like crazy looking back to like the person that I was at that point of life. And looking at the person, that I am now and like the lessons that I've learned, the trials, the triumphs, and you really do like overestimate what you can do in like 1 year, but you underestimate what you can do in like 10. And so that gets me like really excited for the next 10 years. But I would say big lessons that I learned, this last year, one of the things that I've been like really like trying to work on is just like my mindset, specifically developing like a really unflappable mindset no matter what happens. And something that I've taken is you have to like really like love everything that happens. And that doesn't mean just like rolling with the punches, but like actually like loving the things that can be perceived as bad and like turning those things into opportunities. And I think that that's like really hard to do in our space. I think a lot of times you might look at it like something bad happens and it's like, woe is me. Like I have to go and, I'm dealing with all this. Instead of actually like taking a step back and trying to like see the situation for what it is and like what you can learn from it and then like what your next move is. And the thing that we always forget is like there always is a counter move, right? And so I think whether that's like, for example, right, let's say like I used to be, let's say like reps left in the past, right? A couple years back, like a bunch of my reps left to go do solar. And at the time it was like, oh crap, like back to square one. And you could look at it like that to where like now it's really interesting as I hear of like, oh dude, this rep might be leaving or this rep might be leaving. It actually like just doesn't like faze me anymore because I've like learned to understand like, okay, cool. Like that happens. That's like part of the business. Reps leave and you just like have to like learn to adapt and you have to like, what can you learn from it? What did I do wrong? What can I do better? And also like, what's the opportunity here? Like what's the thing that I can do to like win from it? So that's one thing. I don't know. I've got like a lot that we can like get into.
I can't overstate before we just move on from that opening soliloquy from Sky. Like
that was a lot.
I just don't think we can move on. Like that is the mentality of a door-to-door expert. Yeah. Someone who, whether it's on the doors or whether it's in recruiting and building and retaining and managing teams, like it is a classic example of Skyler has become the asset. He is no longer worried about, I don't know if there's deals in this hood. I don't know if I'll be able to get guys for next summer. I don't know if I'll be able to compound. There is no, to Skyler's point, there's no flapping. There's no flustering. There's no chinks in that armor anymore. So it's so interesting to hear from someone who's so weathered in the space, not to age you, Skyler, but just to hear from someone who's been in the space for so long, doing it at such a high level on the personal selling and building side. Like that is the mentality that it takes. It's, oh yeah, if I lose a division, that's okay. We'll rebuild. I lose a piece. That's okay. We'll rebuild. Okay. My right-hand man, something happened to him this summer. Okay. That's fine. We'll rebuild. I love it anyways.
Crap just happens. Right. And it's like, what are you going to do about it? And like, how are you going to respond? And yeah, it's
just having the mindset, dude. Like so many people, if they get kicked out of the hood, their day is done. If not like the week, because they're like, dude, this is going to be my best week. And then Monday they get kicked out of a hood and they're like, well, I'm not going to have my good week anymore. And the same thing, like, dude, it's just time. And to your point where it's like, yeah, you overestimate what you can do in a year, but you underestimate in 10 years. Dude, I love what Drew said at our GPS when we were all in Vegas. He was just like, dude, if you have a bad season, that doesn't make up your career. I'm a big baseball guy. Obviously, I love my boy Mike Trout. And it's like, that guy's had a lot of bad seasons, whether it be injury-ending seasons, whether it be just like, the Angels suck, which they always do. But it's like, dude, everyone's going to look back at his career and be like, oh, that was a 20-year career. He's one of the top 10 greatest to ever do it. And he had a ton of bad seasons. But unless you have that, like, perspective of, oh, the show goes on, I'm not panicking. Like, yeah, you lost that year. This was 2020, the beginning of Grit Marketing. Mm-hmm. That was, like, your whole program.
Yeah. Well, to that, like,
yeah. And you're here. And you have a $45 million program underneath you where a ton of people, it's just like, well, I got to go do solar with them. It's like you let the tail wag the dog and it's like you're here, $45 million program later, obviously with you and Parker. And it's like, it just shows that, dude, you just have time on your side. And let's not freak out. Let's not panic. Careers aren't built in a year or two. They're built over decades. Yeah. And having that mindset is just a mature thing that I feel like you've been able to grow into.
To that point, right, I'm really glad that you said that. Thinking back to like selling, you actually learn the most from the hardest summers.
1,000%.
Right? And that's like exactly the same point of like learning how to actually like look at the hardest summers and love those summers for what they turned you into. Right? It's like,
which is hard to do.
Super hard to do.
You can feel like, oh, I wasted the summer. I didn't do what I felt like I could do.
Yep.
And Those are the best.
Well, dude, it's everyone goes out and they have like the big goals. They want to do this. They're going to get a golden door. They're going to sell 1,000. And then like they don't, right? Sometimes. And
most of the time.
Most of the time, right? And it's like, I was talking to a rep about this the other day, and he was talking to me about how, you know, the first year was this, and then the second year he felt like he lost a lot of the mental battles. And it's like, dude, I'm so glad that you had that experience this year, because you had to go through that to actually know that you don't want to go back there next year. And like, I'm so glad that you had this year while you're still this young in the space, because like the hardest summers are the ones that you learn the most from. And like, that's going to make you a way better leader because of that. So that's something that, that's been really big, is just like understanding that and like loving what happens and just like learning how to just like take it as it comes, not be phased, roll with the punches, find the next counter move.
What I'd love to touch on next, this is talking a little bit more about one of the initiatives that we had going into 2024. Dude, we believe that managers should do what they do best, right? And what do managers do best? Dude, they are world-class managers, right? And what should a manager be in charge of? Training, one-on-ones, and more than anything, just providing an elite experience to the reps that they're selling with, right? And it's like time and time again, our best managers aren't necessarily like the smartest guys or the guys that are the most tech savvy. I still know Ben Egan knows how to airplay onto a TV. I'm just kidding. But it's like, is he the best leader I've ever met in my life? Totally. Some of the things that we did, especially this year, and Skyler, you could talk to this, like introducing medics into 2024, right? And those that don't know, we had 5 to 7 medics that worked in corporate that did all of almost the admin work of the manager. Area drawing, reschedules, copped out phone calls, new area drawing when that happens. Dude, housing, like almost everything that is the admin side of things that managers shouldn't be doing. That's not why they're managers, right? Because they're really good at drawing area, because they're good at assigning car groups, all that stuff that takes hundreds of hours from them in the summer. And we've allowed them, let's take that off your plate. Let's let you do what you do best. And I would love you to speak. You guys had how many teams last summer?
Like 9.
9 teams. Dude, I'd love to hear like how you felt the new corporate initiatives, whether that be medics, whether that be all the little new things that we did. What did you feel like that did to your team leaders that were actually out in market managing?
Yeah, well, I'll speak frankly, right? Like it took adjustment for sure. Because I think like a lot of times managers, while it does totally help them out, they're afraid to relinquish that control at first. But it was a twofold adjustment in the sense of like, yeah, managers had to readjust to this, but what it's going to allow us to do moving forward is like scale on a level that we've just never been able to scale at, right? Where it's like in the past, to be an effective manager, you had to be good at cutting area, good at doing the car groups. Also, don't forget your one-on-ones. Make sure you're giving a dialed team training. Make sure you're talking with all the, like, you had to like actually be an expert at everything. Where the medics, what that does, it really just like increases that bandwidth and allows you to focus on like the highest and best use of your time, right? Training guys, making sure you're maintaining the relationships, focusing on like the team experience, and really just taking like all of this 2 to 3 hours a day of extra work off of the plate. And so I think that like as we move forward,
and that's not even to talk, sorry to cut you off, like a lot of our managers are married. And it's like
totally
the one of the most taxing thing on these most of them are like newly married too. When they get out there, it's not staying up till 2 a.m, cutting area and like doing one-on-ones after cutting area and neglecting your new spouse, whatever that looks like. And like, dude, that's super taxing on the manager as well. So it's like, it just gives time back to the manager where it's not taking away from the experience of the team as well.
Something that I like totally wish I had, right? Yeah. When I was out running teams. And I think of like the future, right? It's like really like Easton talked about, all this grit 1.0 to 2.0 is like we're building this unshakable foundation that can actually scale. We're like so often, you know, we've been just jimmy rigging systems and like making it work every summer. It's like now like, okay, cool. We have this foundation to where we can actually grow this thing and like help people grow massive teams really without a cap on it, because we're only limited by the amount of like leaders and people that we can provide. So
I think, and that's all the benefit from corporatizing, moving a lot of this internal, whether that's through medics or through sales support or whatever you want to call it. That's just the sales benefit to having those systems in place. You free up hours of bandwidth from your best leaders and managers and people in your company But on the business side, the customer selection process for years has been controlled by 18 to 25 after 10 p.m., laying in bed, just had beat-ups, got rocked on the doors. That's been managing the customer selection process for a lot of our competitors. So I just think it's such a unique advantage, yes, on the sales side to be able to free up so much more time and energy for our leaders. But on the backside, to have so much more control over our customer selection process, it allows our medics in one summer, our medics who are assigned 3-4 teams apiece have had more area cutting and routing experience in one summer based on the volume of sales reps
than I have in 10
all of us have had in multiple 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years of doing this. So it not only is it a huge win in sales, I also think it's one of the innovations on the business side that will allow Meera or whoever chooses to, our operating partners really, that's who's going to benefit, perhaps even more so than our managers getting their time back. It's now we have a trained staff of experts who know exactly where to knock and how which demographic knocks and
how it retains.
Exactly.
No more just knocking in that Cherry trailer parks because you know you're going to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll rip 35, but at what cost?
At the cost of 34 canceling. No, I love that. And Sky, I would love to hear maybe one more of your like big takeaways from 2024 before we move into what we're excited about in the future. Another one of your big takeaways.
Dude, I would say one of the biggest takeaways, and this was articulated to me first by Brock Grieve, and we were chatting about this, and then he delivered an incredible message at the GPS Dawn. But he talked about how, when the grit first started, like, we really didn't know much. We were all really young. We were all figuring it out for the first time. There was no, like, blueprint other than, like, us just blazing the trail and, like, figuring it out. And even before then, when we were at Greenix, it's like, okay, cool. There's, like, a couple of reps that are really good, but it's, like, so much of that was us bootstrapping and, like, figuring out how to, like, become good sellers, good leaders, good reps. And I look at, like, Brock and I's summer in Portland when we both did 1,000 that summer. Like, there wasn't anyone on our team to, like, pace other than each other. There wasn't anyone on our team that had already done it. And it's really interesting as we've, like, grown as a company and, we've got, last year 37 golden doors. And it can be really easy to get into this false mindset of, like, oh, like, I just show up at the grit and I'm going to get a golden door because I'm at the grit. Yeah. Or like, oh, yeah, dude, that's just what reps do at the grit. Like, they show up and they go from $1 million to a $2 million downline to a $4 million downline. Like, you just double every year because you're at the grit. And, like, wake up call to everyone. That's just, like, not how it works, and that's, like, never how it's ever worked. And I think that I will say a huge lesson that we probably all learned this year, and we have to continue to shift, is we have to continue to shift from, like, an us company, like, we're going to do it for you. We have to shift back to a you company where it's like, hey, we have tools, we have resources, like, we have the path, but, like, we also are not the ones that actually go out and make it happen, right? And I think, and shame on us, right? Shame on us as recruiters for looking like kids in the eyes and being like, oh, dude, you're on a team with this golden door winner. You're for sure going to get a golden door. It's like, no, dude, you still have to go and figure it out. And when crap hits the road and when, like, you get just punched in the face, like Mike Tyson says, like, you actually have to figure things out and, like, learn from it. And it's on you, right? It's on me as the person. And I do think that that's, like, something that, like, in the next, iteration of Grit 2.0, it's like we have to get back to, like, oh, dude, like, we're going to have the results that we want because we figure it out, not because we expect the grit to figure it out for us. And that's what made us so great in the first place. It wasn't because, like, we had the sauce. It was because, like, we figured out the sauce. Yeah. Like, we just kept trying and kept rolling with punches and kept, like, dealing with problems until we actually figured it out. And so that's a big lesson learned, but it's also, like, something I'm really excited about for the future is actually, like, helping push that accountability back. And I think that that's what's going to lead us to achieving even greater heights than we have in the past.
Yeah, I was like, to that point, me and Easton, we've had the opportunity to sit down with, I think we're still missing some from last year, to be honest. I know we got to get KG on here, like, but at the end of the day, to your point, dude, everybody's path is so different. It's not like it's the golden door blueprint, right? Where it's like, hey, you stick to these 5 steps and your golden door is going to look exactly like Zach Seeger's golden door. It's going to look exactly like Drew Hansen's, or it's going to look exactly like Brock Grieve. It's just not that way. Dude, some people it takes them 4 months, some people it takes them 8 months. Some people, they do it with $1,100 or 1,100 accounts. Some do it with 550. Dude, their path is so different. And like the idea that, it's like come plug in, put the polo on and you'll get the job done. It's like, it's just not how it is. So I totally agree, dude. And I think this year, everyone learned so much. We had our best summer and we haven't talked about this. We still have guys crushing out on the fall block right now, finishing their goals, closing out more golden doors like we expected. But it's like, no, dude, I think accountability for sure just needs to get put back on the rep.
Like, dude, I actually think like one of the areas where we may have potentially like let reps down is 440 grit was like, it was an amazing program, but I think it gave reps a false sense of like,
I made it.
I'm in the 440 grit, so like this just means I'm guaranteed a golden door.
Yeah.
Which like obviously doesn't happen. And so I think that that's something that we have to like continue to remember going forward is like it, and every single rep needs to understand, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to be in the place where I have the bet. Like we promise the opportunity, not the success. And like what I can like look anyone in the eye and say like, oh dude, grit gives you the best opportunity to
hit your goal.
For sure. Like without a doubt. But it's still going to be on you to like, actually make it happen. So
100%.
Big lesson.
Love that. So let's switch gears now and start looking at 2025 in the future. So Skyler already mentioned like GPS. What we did there, you guys, we went out to Las Vegas. We took our whole leadership group. We took 220 people.
Like 250.
250 people, stayed at the Fontainebleau, the newest, nicest hotel on the Strip, put everyone up there. It was a 3-day conference where we rented out some of the coolest conference centers in the city. It was amazing. It was amazing. And we rolled out a ton of new initiatives on all the stuff that we've been working on in the past, right? And I think the first thing that I would love to talk about is the future of the grit, the actual shift from grit 1.0 to grit 2.0. And we already kind of talked about this before the podcast got started. It was about experience. And you kind of already touched on this, right? Here at the Grit, our oldest sales rep, our oldest leader, we could say, 32. I'm 32. You're young still.
I'm 26.
Come on. You're getting up there though, bro. 26, I'm 30. Salty. You guys, like, to Skyler's point, we've done a lot. We've done a lot. I mean, we're going to do over 100 million this year. We did 97 million last year. We did 67 the year before that, 47 the year before that. Like, we've done amazing. We've paid out over
130, 140 million in commissions.
In commissions over these last few years. It's been amazing. That being said, you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And as we've known forever that marketing is going to always be, an arrow in our quiver, but we've also always known that moving forward, we were going to be doing our own thing, right? Like, and marketing has been amazing. We're going to continue to market. It'll still be the majority of all of our production for the, foreseeable future, right? But we've also known that we were going to start building something with long-term equity value, right? Like actual accounts in-house.
So exciting.
So exciting. So with that all being said, and maybe before we get into Meera, which a lot of people have probably seen, we can kind of talk about that a little bit. Dude, we also realize that, we are just going to need help. We just need experience. We need somebody that's done it before, right? Which a lot of you guys already know this. Maybe some of you guys don't. Here at Grit Marketing, moving into Grit 2.0, we decided to bring on a couple more partners, right? So at Grit Marketing, we partnered with Sandlot Ventures, Sandlot Private Equity, which is Casey Baugh, Dave Jensen, and that team over there, but also with Todd Peterson, right? And everyone that is listening to this, you got to know who Todd is, right?
Are we even allowed to say this right now?
Yeah, we're allowed to. I got a green light.
We're approved.
I got a green light.
That's great. It's official.
It's official. So, right, they are partners of ours. Casey Baugh, who is one of the biggest regionals at Vivint, guy that took it from zero to, I think he's worth
200 million.
200 million. He did Vivint the right way. He came in when it was already 5 years old. He was way behind a ton of people and ended up becoming one of the biggest regionals, presidents, whatever they were at that time, of Vivint, right? Like he just climbed the ladder and squoze every drop out of Vivint. Yeah. And then, of course, somebody that's been in the space longer, that is the grandfather. We call him,
Oh, the father.
Todd the father.
The Todd father.
The Todd father of the space, right? Started in pest control, got into marketing of alarms, started his own alarms from Apex to Vivint, Vivint IPO'd, then Vivint Solar. Todd has just done it better than anybody in the space, and it is not remotely close. It's just not. So when we were talking, and this is like a me, Ben, and John conversation, we were talking, we're like, dude, who would we want to come in? And in the entire world, if we could hand pick a partner to come in and like help us, who would it be? I mean, we threw around names like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, like we just kept falling back. Dude, if we could actually choose some person that's just done it bigger and better than anybody, it's just Todd, right? It's just Todd now. He's a billionaire. After he's selling Vivint Solar, he's now living his life the way he wants to live it, which is amazing. But bringing him on, and Casey, Baugh, and Sandlot Private Equity, that entire team, we are just like, I used to know that we weren't going to fail or go anywhere. Like, I knew that we'd be here for forever. But now it's like, okay, like, with these guys, like, we're hitching our wagon to a couple of just legends in the space. Like, this thing's going to go. We just poured rocket fuel into the grid, where before it was going fast and it was amazing. But now it's like, we're going. I would love your take when you like found out exactly what that's going to look like. Man. What were some of your thoughts?
Well, first, like I just think of like, talk about like an endorsement, right?
Yeah.
It's like with how well respected Todd and Casey are, and Dave as well too, but for the door-to-door space specifically, with how well respected and well known Todd and Casey are, the fact that they would like hop back into door-to-door for one, and then second be like, oh, like the grit's where we want to do it. Like, I think that's a two-part endorsement of like, oh, dude, like we're doing something special and we're doing it the right way, right? Like those guys do things the right way, and we're trying to do things the right way. And, you know, Casey said it himself. He's here because he's aligned with what we're aligned with, and like we're all aligned together. So that's really exciting. And I think what I'm most excited about those specifically is just like we talked about, right? It's like you only get wisdom through experience, and we've been young, fast, hungry, and worked really hard, but like we just don't have as much experience as like a lot of other people do, right? As much as like Todd and Casey do. They have decades of going through the same issues that like we've gone through, and so many more that we haven't yet ventured into. And so to now all of a sudden have like the mentorship and wisdom and sage advice from those guys who have like essentially blazed the trail, to be able to like now have those guys in our corner, that's huge. Like that's massive. Like there's not a price tag on that type of value. And so I'm really excited for like all of us, but like most specifically, right? I look at like you, John, Ben, to like have people that you guys can then go to. Because forever it's just been you guys just are just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And now you guys have people that you can go to and run things by and get advice. And so I'm super excited to be able to learn more and to be able to like bounce ideas off of guys that have done it really well, and then to also just to grow and build with them. And I think it's just an astounding like endorsement that they'd come back into the door-to-door space with us.
It's crazy.
The other thing I would say about that, sorry, I know I'm just going, but the other thing that I would say is it makes me really excited thinking about, you know, you think about Casey's story and how he came in not at the beginning of Vivint, but he eclipsed so many other people. And I look at like the grit right now, right? It's dude, everyone thinks that like, oh dude, the grit, if I go now, I'm getting in way too late. Like if you're listening to this right now, like this is my sign to you right now. It's like the biggest leaders at the company don't work at the company yet. The people that are going to be the biggest players at the grit probably aren't even here right now. And there is so much more runway, and getting in right now is like getting in it at, Casey said it himself. He asked us to all raise our hands and say, hey, if you could get in it at the beginning of Vivint, like, would you? Yeah. Everyone raised their hand. It's like, cool. Like, we think this is going to be bigger and better than that. It's like, damn. Like it just gets me excited. It gets me pumped. It gets me fired up. It gets me, you know, I feel like there's been a lot more purpose and fulfillment than there has been in a long time. And then like, it's time to go. It's time to move. So
100%.
That's super exciting. And I hope that anyone who's listening, it's like, that's your invitation. Like, come in, sprint with us, eclipse us, do more than all of us. Like, be a part of it.
100%.
There's so much room.
What were some of your thoughts, East? I just love, like, when you when you even heard it for the first time, like what it could look like? What were some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it gave more framework and support to an already existing like foundation and dream and why and like greater mission. Like I really have always felt the destination is fixed with us, but to Skyler's point, it's hard to put into words like how stirring their endorsement is.
Yeah.
Right? Like more than anything, like they're positioned essentially to take a major or minor stake in any door-to-door company they want to.
And it could be given to them.
And a lot of times I'm sure that it does.
Yeah.
So I just think it's exciting. I think it's a partnership that we've been needing. But I also think more than anything, I think it's speaking to how we've run our business and how we've built our program, and the fact that out of all the options they have, which are, I would guess, fairly copious,
yeah,
they chose to work and support us here at the Grit. So I'm excited to partner with them. I'm excited about the partnership, and
it's been amazing.
I'm excited for what they bring to the table. So Skyler, we have new partners. We've talked a lot about Grit 1.0 to Grit 2.0, talked a lot about the lessons learned over the last year. Probably the most exciting development, even after everything we've heard, the most exciting development, like we've already touched on, is we brought accounts in-house. We started Meera Home, a pest control company that Grit Companies owns. And so initial thoughts on Meera. Why is it exciting? Why are you super pumped up about bringing accounts in-house, fully being able to control all of the processes, and maybe some unique advantages that we have starting a pest control company versus someone who doesn't have maybe as much industry exposure or experience?
Yeah, well, I think what's always been the quote unquote knock on Grit from other companies, it's like, oh, you're just a marketing company. You don't own any of the accounts. There's no like long-term upside. And so now like we're changing that. And it's totally like time that we do that. What's really cool and what's advantageous about it is I look at the last like 4 years of what we've done, and essentially what we've done is we've been able to look behind the curtain at so many different pest control companies and find out exactly like what makes a pest control account valuable. Yeah. Right? It's like we've been able to go in and see like, okay, cool. This company does it this way. This company does it this way. This company does it this way. This is really good. We don't really like this.
And we're talking like 50 plus companies. 50 and some of the biggest in the country.
Oh yeah. And so like we've been able to essentially like pick and choose and like learn exactly what makes a profitable pest control business. And so I'd say like we probably have a better understanding than really like almost anyone out there. And now we get to just take all those lessons and go and build not only a massively valuable, but just a massive, massive company of our own, right? And just run with it. Where it's like you look at a lot of these other companies that had been running for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it's like they've kind of been chugging along and they've grown it pretty big, but it's not that valuable because they haven't done things, per se the right way. It's like we get to go and do that from day one, take all that experience and just start it and run it the exact way that we want to do it.
100%.
That's exciting.
We've just seen it, right? We've now seen Aptive exit. We've seen a Fox exit. We've seen GreenX do one exit, preparing possibly for another in the near future. Do we just like seen what makes an account worth 1x and what makes an account worth 3 to 4x, right? And it's like starting right off the bat, dude, we control the whole sales force, and the sales force is so incentivized to put on good, clean accounts. And we can talk about this as well. It's like, because we are literally taking 15% of the company and it is in the hands of our sales program. 15%, right? And it's funny, when we were like rolling this out, Casey was even like, well, that's a lot. Like 15% is like a lot. And we're like, oh no, like we feel like that's fair. He's like, amazing. Like I'm never like that sounds amazing. But 15% is going to be going to the sales force. And I think as of right now, right, we're just in Atlanta. We just opened up our Atlanta branch, hit 1,000 accounts.
Let's go.
So, you got the Sarge out there rolling in Atlanta, obviously, with like Nate Hauling, those guys, 1,000 accounts already. And I think it's just a matter of time till this thing just gets chugging. I think next year we'll do anywhere between $20 and $40 million in Meera. And the best part is, though, we can do it at the speed that we want to do it in. With the amazing opportunity that we have of marketing which like I said is still going to be the grand majority of all of our production for the next 2, 3, 4, who knows how many years, we're not capping our growth either, right? It's like, yeah, whether you sell for Meera or whether you sell for Sela, which we love, all of our operating partners, we've handpicked them. They love us. We are becoming exclusive partners with a lot of these different, pest control providers or operating partners because they love us so much, right? So what's so cool
and because we like them, right? It's like we get to pick which ones we
amazing
like
operations, amazing retention teams, amazing like service offerings. But with all that being said, it doesn't matter if you're selling accounts at Meera or if you're selling accounts with Sela or you're selling accounts with Axiom. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the production, the production pool is what we call it, our equity plan going to our sales force. It's just across the whole board on all of great companies.
Yep.
So being able to build something that I think Meera will take over the United States. Totally. I think that it will be a multi-billion-dollar company when this thing is all said and done.
Maybe even outside the United States.
Heck, let's get up in Canada sooner.
Scandinavia, our roots.
Come on. Make it happen. But it's like, I am so excited, and I think the best part about it, we're not trying to go too fast. We're not trying to go too slow. We control the lever of production. So as much as we believe we should be doing in Meera year 1, that's the exact amount that we're going to do in Meera 1. Year 1, year 2, year 3. So what should the account look like? Should it be monthly billing? Should it be bi-monthly? Should it be more of a 9 service? We are going to do what makes sense over time because we are just not beholden to one company.
And what I think people don't talk about, right, is like in a lot of models, it's either you're all just equity branches or you're all marketing, where it's like another advantage that we have is like we get to take the money that we're earning from marketing to then go grow our in-house without taking on as much debt, right? 100%. And we still might take on debt to grow at a certain pace, but it's like we just have way more options to do it. Like what the Grit is and what it's always been is a growth engine, right? The Grit is a growth engine, and that's like for our marketing partners in the past, like, you look at some of these partners that we've had and maybe where they were when we entered to the growth that they've had in their pest control companies over the last like 3 or 4 years. And it's just exciting thinking about, okay, now we get to actually take that growth engine and just plug it into our own accounts that stay with us for the long haul. And it's like, oh dude, the ceiling is just, it doesn't exist with that. So that's super, super exciting.
Which is so exciting because no matter what company you're at, there's a ceiling.
Yeah.
Like we were at GreenX and GreenX had a ceiling.
Yep.
Like they said, hey, we only want X amount of production. What does that do to the sales force? It's just going to cap it. And no matter what, even our production partners that we have, whether it be Axiom, whether it be Sela, whether that be White Knight, they can only handle so much, which is why we do have 10 plus, operating partners because there's budgets, there's ceilings.
Oh, totally.
But with what we're doing even with Meera, even if there ever was a shortage of marketing options, well, now we've got Meera, and now we can do 30 plus million with Meera. And so we can just move things around unlike any other player in the game. And it's just been way, way exciting. Anything else on Meera, East, that you...
No, I think you guys have touched all the points that really excite me.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to innovate and fail and iterate and fail fast and fail cheap and try again. And I don't know. I think perhaps the most unsung but most valuable piece of our business and nature of our business over the last 4 years is the exposure that we have to what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that the path has led us through so many amazing operating partners, so many really hard summers, so many, at least in my opinion, would be like probably not fully optimal situations along the way. I'm really thankful for all of them because now it's given us a really clear picture, a really actionable plan to not make some of those mistakes from day one so that we can ensure that our accounts are exactly what we think they are from very inception until the day that we either hold or sell or whatever. So I do think there's just so many options that are going to stem from us choosing to take the longer, probably a little bit more windy, strenuous road to get to this place, doing in-house accounts, owning our own production. I wouldn't have had it any other way. I think this conversation, I don't think Meera is this exciting, revolutionary, transformative brand. I don't think we're seeing butterflies all over the place if we immediately tried to start this equity option in 2020. So I'm
100%.
I'm grateful for the marketing option. I'm really, I think it's serendipitously, whether it was as wise as we fully realize it is now at the time, But I think it's been, for one reason or the other, just a really smart move for us to market as long as we did and be disciplined as long as we have. And now it's allowed us just more opportunity. It's crazy what execution does.
100%. Skyler, any last things? Actually, I would love for you to maybe finalize what your thoughts that when Easton was talking about failing.
No, yeah, my closing points would be this, right? Like Tom Peters said in his book, The Excellence Dividend, he said, he who tries the most stuff and messes the most stuff up wins, right? And Casey's talked about that. John's talked about that. And I think that like moving forward, that's what's like the most exciting, where one of the big reasons that I am at the Grit is because I totally identify with being a company that is adaptable, right? You adapt or you die. And you look at Grit 1.0 and Grit 2.0, and like they are totally different animals. And, you know, I would say, I would venture to say that like we've been kind of pushing the envelope and cutting edge really every year. And that would be evidenced by all the other copycats out there with their social media pages, how many companies are now doing a podcast, just all the different things that have like popped up. But what I will say, right, is like that I'm most excited about is that we will continue to try new things. We tried spring block this year. We tried fall block this year. We're doing year-round blitzes. We're working on year-round schedule. We're opening up our own company. Like there's so many new things that we're trying, and we are going to like mess stuff up. Like we have been messing stuff up for the last 4 years, right? But that's like the beauty of business, and that's like how we actually ensure that we win, right? The way that you fail is like you get stagnant. And the way that you win is you keep trying new things. Like we're trying the new tailgates. We're expanding to new locations. We're opening recruiting offices all over the place. We have the private plane to like go out and actually visit those places. Easton, Drew, moving out to Florida. Like so many new things are happening. And to everyone listening, like buckle up, because like we're going to mess a ton of crap up, and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to iterate, and we're going to repeat. Like iterate, repeat, iterate, repeat, iterate, repeat, until we get to where we're going. And like, we're just going to have an amazing ride the whole way.
Yep. And even once we get there, we're still going to mess stuff up. And we're still going to keep trying.
Yep.
Well, you guys, this was a super insightful conversation about like, you know, where we've been, where we're going. And I don't even know if we really scratched the surface on so many other new things. As soon as you started talking, I was like, we didn't talk about this. There's so much. And I think the next couple podcasts, we'll get into some more of like what we're doing, what the future is going to look like. And we didn't even mention that you're a Tampa native at this point.
I am.
Hurricane Milton almost took you out.
Milton and Helene, man. That was the whole thing.
So we're just doing so many new things. But you guys, I hope that you guys like enjoyed this. Skyler, thanks so much for hopping on, dude. And Easton, any last words?
No. As for this episode of The Landing Pad, we out.